Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It is the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. We are happy that you could join us and happy to be here, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. And yeah, you are ready to, get into some Computer America because we have one of our favorite correspondents here talking all about security, cybersecurity, and, just some topics from, over the past couple of days. It's always a very interesting time. And of course, no one more knowledgeable than Mr. Scott Schober. So before we get into that and talk with him, we can, of course, talk about a couple of things, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So be that, let's say anything about the contest, anything about the show notes, because when we talk about things such as today, we're going to be referencing articles, and you could definitely check that out there as well. Just everything, computeramerica.com, one simple place. And while you're there, be sure to check out the live video stream, and also be sure to check out, like I said, the social media contest brought to you by Logitech. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and talk and actually just bring our guest on, and we'll get started on these topics, because I don't think we're going to get to them all, but we're going to try our darndest. So once again, he is the author of Hacked Again, works and actually founded, I believe, Berkeley Varitronics Systems. And yeah, again, just a correspondent on Computer America. Happy that he could join us. And Scott, how are you doing? Welcome on to Computer America.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back here, Ben. Look forward to a great discussion.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun because, like I said, you found a ton of really, really good topics, and I'm not sure where to start. Why don't we go ahead and actually, before we even get started on the topics, give us a bit of background on yourself. What makes you so qualified to talk not just about, cybersecurity, which we're going to do, but things like cryptocurrency and, kind of business security?
Absolutely. Well, Berkeley Varitronics is a 46-year-old company. I myself personally didn't actually start the company or found the company. It was my father, Gary Schober, is our CTO still, and he's retired, but still pops in every once in a while. It's the business I grew up in, so it's the only job I ever have, and I certainly love it. And our company really creates and designs unique niche wireless solutions for a lot of security companies, a lot of government agencies, and we get excited when there's technology challenges, and it certainly crisscrosses the intersection of wireless and cybersecurity and hacking. So love talking about this topic, educating people, and look forward to a great discussion. And you mentioned even blockchain and Bitcoin, and I'm certainly getting involved in that. I've recently joined as an advisor for BlockSafe Technologies, which is securing the blockchain, and they've got a crypto coin and an ICO that they're doing, certainly. So a lot of exciting things that I'm also working with them on. And we'll talk about that and weave that into the conversation a little bit here as well today.
Yeah, we absolutely will, because there's I think when it comes to cryptocurrency, more than anything else, like as sometimes hard as it is to talk about, cybersecurity and all the ins and outs, cryptocurrency, it's right up there. So, hey, we have a couple topics about that, but I think for the first thing we're going to discuss is actually this one about, the Nintendo Switch. And this is one that we fully intended to cover yesterday, did not get a chance to, but it was a pretty, it was a pretty big deal because it's a major console. I think there are, tens of millions or something like that, tons of units out there that just can't be patched or fixed. So if you could, kind of bring us into this, what happened, and also kind of why this is such a bad thing, because again, as I understand it, it can't just be updated away.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. Some of the reasons that this, I believe, is really noteworthy and kind of stands out on its own is just what you pointed out. Nintendo Switch is a great gaming system. It's so popular. Just as of December 2017, there were over 10 million sold, and now it's on track to sell 20 million units just in 2018 alone. So astronomical numbers of these gaming systems that are getting out there. Technically, Switch is the fastest-selling console within the United States now, and it's primarily because of two hot games, Super Mario Odyssey and then The Legend of Zelda. So for you, the gamers out there listening in, they certainly can, that resonates with them. They're familiar with this console. But as you pointed out there, really the concerning part is that it's not a simple fix. This is a little bit deeper, and I don't want to do it too deep of a dive, but maybe in simple terms, the hackers really discovered a vulnerability with the USB recovery mode, which has to really do with the communications. And really there's kind of a back door that they found to circumvent this lockout operation, which protects the inside chips, inside the unit there, the integrated circuits there, and they could send some code basically giving the hacker access to it. And really what it is, it's a flaw in the boot ROM. A boot ROM is really designed there so you can upload, if there are problems with security or you got to make a patch to fix something. In this case, they found, in a sense, a backdoor around it so they could actually write over part of this boot ROM, and that way it could be exploited there. And to make matters worse, there's already groups out there that are claiming that they have an equivalent exploit that they're going to start selling. So now somebody's trying to profiteer off this, which is one of the reasons, I guess, that ReSwitch made this public to let everybody know, hey, here's a significant problem with this boot ROM. It's got to be fixed. However, there's no simple way to fix it, because it's really, in a sense, it'd have to be hardware replaced. Guess what? Not doable. Very, very scary.
Right. It really reminded me of what happened with Intel, and again, we don't want to get into what happened with Meltdown, but it was kind of the same thing where it was such a fundamental flaw in the technology that it felt it didn't feel like they were able to patch it in certain ways, like kind of like workarounds, but the hardware actually took a hit to productivity and the speed that the processors could go at, and in some cases the software fix was causing this hardware to crash. So it seems like there's a rise of, and I don't know if this is just hackers kind of working new angles, or if this is something about just how we design hardware, but it's not just about finding an entry field that you can input strings into. Now there are other ways, including things that the company just really can't fix until future iterations.
Yeah, well said. And I think when you think about this, what it's helping us all appreciate, hardware, software, and firmware within products are really highly integrated. You can't just build something with a solid hardware platform and say, well, we'll patch it and we'll fix it in the actual firmware later on if we have a problem. Because in this particular case, they can't patch it or fix it. So this vulnerability is in tens of millions of game systems. What does that mean? Well, we don't know yet, but what it does is it opens up the door, because basically hackers can put on their own code and do all kinds of crazy things. They can put on arbitrary code, take over the CPU and start doing crazy things. And it's a younger audience typically that are using these gaming systems. Not necessarily everybody, but typically the age group. And now they can try to exploit things from them. That is very, very concerning. The unknowns. And this may just be the start. Now, what other game systems might they be targeting that have similar type of problems? We don't know.
Right. And one thing that I had heard about this, that it's like, yeah, now there's a flaw. If you have physical access to this device, then you can have problems there. But another side of this uh, is just for Nintendo, because they have a lot of interest in, in a closed system such as this. They don't want people to run arbitrary code, because that means that using their system, they could run potentially bootleg, fake, copied versions of the operating system, of games, of emulators. Essentially, this one, this one flaw opens up the hardware to be hacked, and Nintendo definitely doesn't want this. So I guess my question to you is, I mean, there's a possibility that and I apologize again, I think it's like 16 million or however many units. Uh, those aside, because like you said, no one's going to send them back to be fixed for this. But is this something that kind of going forward, Nintendo can, kind of see how it worked and fix it? Or is something like this always going to exist on some level?
I think to some level this will always exist, but I think what happens is they put the pause button on rushing product to market too quickly. In this particular case, it was an embedded processor really that is tied in with this vulnerability there. So again, a piece of hardware on there that allows firmware to reside on there, that being the boot ROM. They need to then carefully slow down and say, okay, let's patch this properly, fix it, so going forward, everything going out the back door on the production line doesn't have this vulnerability. The problem with this system here that they're dealing with, the Nintendo system, as well as any other gaming system, it's fundamental. You can never get all of the bugs and things out of it. So you really got to protect that segment where you have the ability to patch it, and security patches are essential. And we've talked about this with IoT devices. The same is true with gaming devices. Many of these, because you have wireless connectivity, you connect into the internet, you have to have the ability to update that boot ROM, the memory basically, and patch when there are bugs and when there are problems like this. So they're going to have to put pause and not ship product for a little while, put in a new patch of code here going forward, so there's no backdoor, no workaround. So it's fixable, but you can't go backwards in time to the tens of millions
Right.
of systems that are already out there.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge problem for Nintendo going
Huge,
forward.
yeah.
But yeah, they're going to be able to deal with this. I think the biggest part that I wanted to take away from this was the fact that this doesn't mean that Nintendo strictly is now, susceptible to a wide range of malware, because that's not really, what this security flaw was. It was just being able to run that arbitrary code if you had your physical hands on it by, essentially putting it into like USB recovery mode. It's a way to get in, and it's definitely a security risk. But aside from losing your console, I don't think people keep government documents on their Switch, as far as I know. So
No.
it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not good. Um, and I guess with that being said, I mean, oh yeah, I remember exactly what I wanted to ask you. You probably know the area better than I do, but there are people called ethical hackers. There are people who do penetration testing, people who just do cybersecurity, white hat hackers, things like that, who work to essentially hack, but then they explain what they did, how they did it, and they make whatever company they're working with all the better, all the stronger, because now they are aware of that vulnerability. That's what happened with Nintendo. A security researcher found this flaw. So we've seen a couple of different instances. We saw this with Meltdown. We see it with airliners. We see it with large Amazon Web Services, Google. They all have things like bug bounty programs. My question to you is, what do you feel is the best way to go about, kind of fixing these problems that security researchers find? Because there's always this feeling that you may find a security flaw and you make the company aware of it, but then there's always that conversation of the security researcher didn't give the company enough time to fix it. They made it public and now everyone's vulnerable. It seems like there's not really a code of conduct for bringing up such such things, because again, things can go wrong if these aren't fixed, and especially if you make them public. So I just asking you, what do you think is again the code of conduct for telling companies that, hey, you have a flaw?
Yeah, and that's actually a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. And oftentimes, I've often wondered about that. Is that fair? Is it enough time? In this particular instance, the disclosure was just reported. It's only maybe 24 hours old. But the full disclosure, which is the public disclosure, it's not planned until June 15th, 2018. So if we think about it, there is a period of time there. You're talking almost 2 months that Nintendo can respond and come out with a statement from their company. What's their corrective action? How will this affect users? So I think it does give a company enough time to properly respond, be it patch, be it fix, be it recall, be it notify customers, be it stop the production lines and fix it before more go out the back door. And that's typically what works well with these type of bug bounty programs. A researcher will find it and identify it, as you mentioned there. Hey, here's the vulnerability. The company will do a quick check and verify, yep, it is a vulnerability, we acknowledge it, and then there's a period of time to rectify that damage, and then how do you help the public? So I look at this as something that's actually very good. It's important. I mean, even as a company, our products and our software, we warranty our software for life. If somebody notes a bug and says, hey, you got a problem with it, we fix it for free. And we'll give them a free copy and update them. Can it be expensive? Sure. Does it make it a better product and more secure? Absolutely. And I think that's really the fundamental power behind this. It's getting companies, especially large companies, when it affects millions of users, to take action. It gets their names in their headlines, and it's a little bit of a slap in the butt maybe, but it gets them to do corrective action quickly and solve the problem so they have a more reliable platform, safer for all of us.
Right. Very well said. And I think we're going to go ahead and move on from the Nintendo conversation. And before we jump into our next point, and again, everyone, if you want to check out what we're talking about, computeramerica.com, we of course have the show notes there with everything that we talk about. Though of course, we're showing your webpage, and I can't help it. I crack up every time I see the photo, but you have a new section there, and I'm not sure when you added it, but if you want to talk just a little bit about it, what keeps you up at night? And I don't know, you have that picture of like just the the only thing you're missing is the nightcap with the fuzzy ball on the end. And yeah, so what is this section, and what are you trying to do with what keeps you up at night?
Absolutely. This is kind of a fun section. The more and more I talk about cybersecurity and breaches, and this is from friends and coworkers and business associates, pretty much everyone, they all have a story to tell. And I'm amazed, and I love listening to some of these. So I decided, let me come up with a simple weekly segment, and I get basically a cybersecurity expert that comes on, and they spend 1 to 2 minutes, and they share their horror story, what keeps them up at night. And we just started the series. I've already filmed, I guess, about 6 episodes. I've got about another 15 or so lined up over the next few weeks that we're recording these, and we're going to, again, release it once a week. So it's a simple YouTube video that somebody could watch. And, again, only takes about 2 minutes to watch, and you get to hear from the experts what's their biggest concern, what keeps them up at night, and we're having a great time with it.
No, it seems awesome. And, more and more, I'm finding you are putting up a lot of different content, a lot of varying kinds of content on your website. So that's, of course, great to see. So just had to, of course, ask that. So, but with that being said, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump over to our next one. And this is one I remember it being a conversation a little while ago. And it was along the lines of a company. It was a smaller company. I'm sure part of it was simply getting headlines and getting some media attention, because it was only people who opted in, and it was the employees were given the option of instead of ID cards or swipe cards or Morse code, whatever they were using before to access facilities, around the plant. I believe that they were giving the employees the option to microchip themselves. And I think a lot of people are familiar with microchipping when it comes to their pets. I hope that they all do that. And but your employees, there was obviously something very visceral that people were, on edge about chipping your employees. It was almost like that dystopian feeling. So you have a story here. The RSA 2018 presentation looks like you're up there, kind of talking, and implanting microchips, innovative idea, or heading down a dangerous path. What did you have to say about this? Because again, we've seen it in the wild a couple of times, but it hasn't taken off.
Yeah, this is gaining some very interesting traction, and I was honored to. I was able to co-present at RSA conference, which if your listeners are familiar with, it's out of San Francisco. Last week I was there. About 45,000 security experts were there, and I was there co-presenting with Tyler Cohen-Woods, another cybersecurity expert, and it was a lot of fun because we got to talk to a huge audience and get their take on it and really get them to kind of weigh in on if they thought it was something that was too dangerous or was it exciting, would they even consider it? In fact, I started the presentation off even asking, is anybody in the audience actually chipped? And surprisingly, to my surprise, several people raised their hands.
Huh.
And we got to really not just talk about the topic, but we invited them, hey, jump on the microphone and let's chat and discuss this. What was it like and how painful and what are some of the things you can do? And one of the particular attendees, they use it to actually get into any type of event. So that's their badge, basically. They can wave it past, just like you would normally do with a barcode or whatever, but from a near-field communication reader, and that's how they get scanned in, as well as airlines and different points within their organization, so they could actually be swiped in to get in, and it's pretty amazing. It's got 888 megabytes of data that stores on a near-field chip that gets implanted under your skin, and you could put all kinds of things on there. It could be a document, it could be information, it could be a URL if it's a particular thing that you want to log on to, kind of like an optical character recognition from your phone where we do that. You can even store your Bitcoin private keys on it. A lot of people do that as well because you figure it's something that's safe, it's under your skin, it's on your person at all time.
Pretty
and
hard
you can
to
simply,
steal. Yeah.
Yeah, unless they cut your hand off. That was the one joke that we kept bringing up, which is a little bit scary. But more and more, I think what's behind this is start thinking about Google Wallet. Think about Apple Pay. What are we doing? Really not much different. That's near-field communication. You're only a couple centimeters away from the actual reader, and this is a read-write case, and it's really it's the magnetics of the near-field communication that's actually making it work. So as you bring in this case, your wrist close to the reader, that magnetic field is energizing it, which is hence powering it. So there's no battery inside of the little implant. It's about the size of a piece of rice, and it is supposedly very safe to put under your skin, although I personally have not done it and don't plan to do it. But it's a small cylinder, safe.
I mean, if you are ever concerned, and I know animal testing can be a touchy subject, but let's face it, cats and dogs all over this country have been getting these implants for a long time. It's just the idea of applying it to people, and I'm kind of there where we track people in a lot of different ways. We track, there's been this whole thing with Facebook and the idea to data, privacy, that kind of thing. There are, and of course, Scott, because of the company you run, you know this better than most. You're tracked in ways that you probably don't even know. They're very passive. There are license plate readers. There are a lot of different places that will just kind of track the comings and goings of everyday people, and maybe not actively look for someone, but passively, if they need to go back and check something, they can say, oh, this car went down this road at this time with this license plate. Little things like that. So I feel like we've tracked we've learned to track people to the nth degree, but the last barrier is actually physically tracking them. And
Yeah.
I gotta kind of agree with you. I don't think it's very far away. Like, I feel like it's going to be opt-in until it's going to be opt-out.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there are a lot of, I think you touched on it before, there are companies that are starting to offer, and it's optional now, but more and more people are actually signing up and saying, hey, there's some advantage to it. There's a lot of research that's even been done. It's shorter lines, so you can get on the airplane faster, on the train faster, you can log into your building faster. Can you track people by this means? Absolutely. You could store your private keys for your cryptocurrency on this. There's a whole bunch of things that are coming out of it. There's even vending machines now that you basically can wave your wrist by, and that's, again, your authentication to prove that's you, that's your ID, and you could purchase a soda or candy or whatever the case may be. So I think what it's really doing is it's opening the conversation up. And to some people, they're really squirmish about it because it's putting something into your body. And when we got into the topic, a deep dive, it's under $100 to actually buy an implant, and you could do it yourself. It comes with a syringe and all the medical apparatus, so you can do it. It's sold by a company. The implants are sold by a company called Dangerous Things. On their website, they say that they've sold well over 250 of these implants recently, so it's kind of catching on. And there's a number of different ones at different frequencies, and the list goes on and on. But to me, as you put, it's opening the door to other things. I start to envision now. Imagine you have an implant and you're working out in a gym, and you want to monitor your heart rate, your pulse, your temperature, and you want that information to be tied into your phone in an app to track that and use it so you can live healthier. Hey, all these things are possible with an implant.
Yeah, and I think if this technology is going to take off, it has to be that instantaneous. You mentioned tracking vitals. That's a very real-time kind of data. Currently, we have a couple people in our chat room talking about the chips in credit cards and debit cards, and they say that a big gripe with those was that they take longer than just swiping a card. And you can see that. And I think I remember reading an article where I think on average, it was something like 13 seconds longer to verify a transaction with a chip than it was with simply swiping on the magnetic strip. And that 13 seconds doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're sitting there making awkward eye contact with the cashier, it seems like forever, I guess. And it's a real pain point, and I've actually seen certain locations take them out completely, and that's a problem. So if these implants don't work very well, then that's a huge barrier to entry. Not even so much the tracking, but if they don't do anything really useful, that's going to be it. So,
Sure.
Yeah. So they're going to get better. Convenience. Yeah. And if they can justify that convenience. So it's an interesting idea. I honestly do think it's coming. I don't know what's going to be, because, for cats and dogs, it was the idea that you could recover your pet if they run away or anything happens, or if someone else picks them up, the pound will check them for the chip before they put them down or things like that. Like, it really took off the company behind, like Home Again. I don't know what that's going to be for people. I don't know if it's going to be fitness tracking, like you mentioned. I don't know if that's going to be missing persons, or just in case a kid winds up missing and the kid before being taken to the pound is scanned or whatever it may be. I don't know what that one thing is. Hey, maybe Amazon will have their Amazon Key service, and it's going to read your chip to let you in your front door. Maybe something like that.
That's actually a good example of something that probably would be fairly successful, especially if they have some incentive tied into it that would encourage people to opt in. Here's other extremes. There are certain countries that are actually trying to have it as a mandatory requirement at birth that people are chipped. Instead of having a social security number that gets compromised and so on and so forth that we deal with, imagine having everybody from birth has a chip in them, and that's their unique ID that's tied to them. Scary, but at the same time you could see the benefits. The other case that came up, and not many people talk about it, but it's also being used heavily in the military. We think about dog tags.
Mm-hmm.
That's something, a chain you put around your neck in case somebody is killed. Well, they have a way to identify who the body is. Now imagine that you actually have an implant in you, and that's got all your information there that certainly they can scan and use.
Scott, we're going to have to stop right there. Music means we're going to take a break. Everyone, Scott Schober talking about chipping your kids. Yes. So everyone, we'll be right back. Computer America.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour, and man, we are tripping down memory lane here in the chat room. They're trying to get us to remember our old call-in number. And actually, funny that you guys mentioned that. We are probably going to be working in not only, of course, you can talk to us live here on the video stream, but we soon should be working back in callers into the rotation. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. And, hey, Scott Schober is going to be helping with that as well. We're going to work on it, but hey, look forward to things such as that. So in the meantime, everyone, welcome back into Computer America. And yeah, we are talking to Scott Schober, Berkeley Varitronics Systems, as well as Hacked Again, a great book. Check it out. And we were just, wrapping up this whole conversation about, Bluetooth implants and the like. It's, it's kind of a strange new world, but at the same time, it's going to be, like what seems kind of foreign and scary to us. I think that if you go back even 10, 20, 30 years, if you told people that, hey, you're going to have a device that you won't be able to put down, but it's going to track everything you do everywhere you go, they'd be like, well, I would never want something like that. And now, hey, we can't wait to buy the latest, greatest, most accurate tracking device called a smartphone. So, what's scary today is not scary tomorrow. So we'll definitely see about that. So I think with that, though, we're going to go ahead and pivot to one of our other articles here. And this one, I just want to touch on kind of quickly. I feel like Yahoo has metaphorically been beaten to death because they have been sold off and divvied up and whatnot, but their legal troubles are not over. So if you could, Scott, talk about the SEC and what this latest fine is for and what it really means.
finding Yahoo for their poor security practices or not informing the users because they eventually did, or anything else related to the hack, but just that their decisions were so lacking, which seems almost kind of arbitrary or an ultimate slap in the face there. What else could possibly happen? I don't think there is anything else. They've botched it so bad over the past few years and not disclosed the information on the data breach. What this is I think, a lesson to all business owners and corporations. When you are compromised and when you are breached, don't be afraid to talk about it. You may have to do some quick research and triage, find out what the problem is, but let the users, let the shareholders, let the public know where you failed. That was, I think I've shared with you, my failings in the very beginning when our company was compromised was coming to terms with it and saying, oh my gosh, if I tell people we were hacked, nobody's going to want to do business with us. It's embarrassing. It's this, it's that. And then you say, wait a minute, this is the right thing to do. I got to come clean and I got to share this information so it doesn't happen again and we can protect users' information. That's where Yahoo failed and failed and failed. So hopefully this is a done deal and won't happen anymore, but it's a wake-up call for all of us.
It's a wake-up call for all of us, and it's a wake-up call in the wake of every one of these breaches. But I mean, I think there's some legislation working its way through. I'm not sure how far it's going to get, but they're going to require companies to disclose, I think, within 5 days of being breached. And, the problem that a lot of companies bring up is the fact that breaches aren't like checking out a home. It's not like a home that you bust in, you say the door's been knocked in, the drawers have been searched, and they stole everything out of the safe. It's not that easy to pinpoint exactly where they were, what they got, and what they had access to. It takes time, and companies are pushing back because they say that 5 days is simply not enough time to fully discover what has been compromised. But there has to be a happy medium where, the immediacy of 5 days is pretty, obviously consumers would love that. But then there's also the opposite side where you have things like Uber, just to call out, one of the dozens of hacks we talked about. Uber, who, paid off the hacker and didn't notify anyone for over a year. So I don't know what the middle ground there is, but there has to be something where you owe to your customers, because it's not just you that was hacked or compromised potentially, but the everyday people who rely on your service. So I know that it seems like we are kind of beating a dead horse with Yahoo, but it's one of those things that they really did mess up, and just how much they messed up seems to get worse over time. So
yeah, I think you make a great point, and maybe you contrast that with I always look at somebody like J.P. Morgan, one of the largest financial institutions in the world, one of the most secure, yet they were compromised. What's the difference? At least they responded. They informed people quickly. They spelled it out. They made public disclosures, and then they said, "Here's what happened. We contained it. Here's what we're gonna do so it doesn't happen again. Here's what the results are. Here's how we're gonna help you so you can move along and still deal with us." That's the proper way to handle it. Yahoo, when it's a cover-up and too much time goes by, and again, I think a year in the case of Uber, way too long. And the other contrast is 1 week is probably not enough. Maybe some companies need about a month to properly ascertain what happened and give a proper notification to the public, the SEC, whoever else is involved.
Right.
Enough time would really make a difference, though.
Right. So, hey, Yahoo, I think that we're kind of winding down to what is, because, hey, this is still a fine over the 2014 breach. We're not even talking about
Exactly.
2017. It's from years ago. So, yeah, we'll and the number keeps fluctuating. I think there was like stolen info from like 500 million according to this article, and then there was like basic login credentials stolen from like all 3 billion users. It was bad. So we said it years ago.
Exactly.
We would be talking about this one for years. So
yeah, it's not going away, and I think the bottom line is we always have to again balance that thought out about convenience versus security. Yeah, Yahoo is convenient. It's free, but you're paying in a different method. Maybe that's your private information.
And if you could just jog my memory real quick, Scott, who purchased Yahoo? Because Yahoo, and I was about to say AOL, but I think AOL, the online properties were sold with Yahoo to
Verizon, actually. Yeah.
Verizon, right? So, there's some people in the chat room asking, does Yahoo even still have $35 million? I think that Verizon, as part of their deal, had to take on all of their assets and all of their liabilities. So this is actually partly Verizon's problem right now. So
yeah, they inherited, I think, a poor brand there. Marissa Mayer was ousted there, and they did take into account, I guess it was a $5 billion deal, but it was trimmed down to about $4.4 billion, if I recall right there, to take into consideration all this breach fiasco.
Every time there was a new headline about Yahoo, you would just see like the offer price just get knocked down by $1 billion, $2 billion, and you were like, yeah, okay, well, we saw that coming. It was kind of sad, but all right. So there's Yahoo. We have enough time, I think, to get to these next two articles, and this one kind of works in because, well, Yahoo was a victim of hackers, and login credentials, personal information, identities, things like that, contents of emails, all things you don't want breached. But the results of that, I don't want to say they're minimal, but they're digital. You have this next one here that you kind of brought to our attention, and we're going to go ahead and throw it up there. But roadways, America's roads and railways. I don't know if you've been kind of keeping an eye on the national news, but I guess it's just coincidence that every week there's a new semi truck or pickup truck or something where a train hits a truck, but we're seeing the infrastructure not working as intended in everyday life. And now I guess when you can throw in a bad actor into that, a hacker, imagine the kind of chaos that you could actually rain down if you intentionally tried to make things go wrong. So you have this new one here, Pew Trust. What is this? What is this about? And I guess, Atlanta, if you're listening, another thing to worry about.
Yeah, well, I think in headline after headline, many different municipalities have been targeted. As you mentioned, Atlanta, a lot of DOT, Department of Transportation groups are facing these ransomware attacks and problems. And the fundamental problem that I think we all have to realize, we all associate a Department of Transportation or municipality to, hey, they, pave the roads and put signs up and so on and so forth. All true and all necessary, and our tax dollars at work, which is wonderful. But many of these things are being modernized, and they all go back to the Internet. They have wireless connectivity, and that's the point there that I have some concern with when we think about traffic signals. When we think about message boards, they have cellular modems that will talk over the wireless networks that will connect into the Internet so they can push messages up about an accident or traffic or something else. Well, as you mentioned fittingly, those are apt for hackers to try to target. And where there are vulnerabilities to exploit, they will move in and put up stupid messages, or they could do other types of monkey business that could actually cause serious accident. That's scary.
I'm let's see, the one I'm really remembering was an accidental hack, and it was along the lines of like I think someone did it for a school project, and they did a fake news alert that there were zombies attacking. Everyone should seek shelter. And they essentially just downloaded a version of the emergency tone that, kind of catches your attention. But I guess the system was programmed to listen for that tone, and it rebroadcasted it over and over and over again because it was just so, I guess they never intended for anyone other than the emergency services to actually use the tone, and a bunch of others. I mean, it's not impossible, and I guess my question to you is that, like, it's not impossible, but is this something that they'd actually target? Because you can't hack a Rhodes Bitcoin wallet. Is this something that people would really kind of go for?
Yeah, I do think that there's certainly where there are vulnerabilities and where there's chaos, they will be targeted. And think of it something like, as sad as it sounds, but something terroristic. That there's terrorists that go around and will blow up a pressure cooker filled with nails, and you ask yourself, how stupid is that? How can that even exist? But yet it happens. Similar type of thing here. Imagine you're going through an Easy Pass toll booth, and somebody now targets that. So suddenly they don't want to pay tolls, or they want to let everybody ride through for free on a Monday for some reason. Those type of things could be catastrophic to people's commute, to traffic jams, to people's driving. It could cost people's lives if the right monkeying, or you mentioned before. What about, imagine traffic signals at a railroad crossing? Imagine if that was compromised, how devastating that could be. Could mean many lives. So all the unknowns are what kind of scares me, and maybe in line with what keeps me up at night when I start thinking about those vulnerabilities, the things that are unexplored so far that these extremists tend to look at, and hackers tend to be extremists. So the time will tell.
Let's hope that the hackers don't kind of have that overlap with terrorists and actual bad activities. But hacking, as we've seen with a lot of other countries, especially anything having to do with Russia lately or anyone around Russia, there's been a lot of interest in. I know that's state-sponsored hacking. That's not terrorist hacking or things like that. But they've been working on how to compromise things like the power grid. It's it's that mix of convenience where you could monitor a lot more systems without actually having to send crews out. It's easier, much faster, much more responsive. But hey, who's it actually responsive to? And that's anyone with the proper credentials. So it's
absolutely.
It's a scary future. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but between the microchip implanting and the hackers making our roadways crumble, I don't know. Like, did we sign up for what keeps you up at night episode? Like, it's kind of scary.
You may be on our next episode. Exactly.
There you go. So, all right. So let's hope that doesn't get much worse, but we know it will, because these systems, they, especially new systems, they definitely will be connected to the internet, and then it's a matter of, how much do you really want versus what do you want to secure? And hey, that's not easy. So, all right, this last segment, we're going to dedicate, I think, here the last 10 minutes of the show to, because I don't think we got a chance to talk about it last month. I know that you had some news about it, including the organization you are now associated with. But let's talk about Bitcoin, because all right, so let me start off here. I'm going to show everyone out there watching the video portion, just Googled price of Bitcoin. It's something that I do whenever I hear the word Bitcoin. I go look at the price of Bitcoin just because I'm interested. And I won't lie, the past 2 to 3 months, it's been a crazy roller coaster downwards. I'm not invested in any cryptocurrency. I just like to see, the spikes. And it went down to, I think, like $6,700 there for a little bit, down from its peak of early last year or late last year, early this year, from like almost $20,000. So again, just Googling price of Bitcoin, you come up with these news stories, including one investor says Bitcoin could hit $700,000. Which is a lot of money. Another one says that, 10K on hold as Bitcoin sees pullback, or, they have experts on talking about the true price of Bitcoin. I know that Bitcoin isn't indicative of all cryptocurrencies, but my point is that there's a lot of clutter out there. There's a lot of soothsaying, there's a lot of future telling, not a lot of facts. There's a lot of emotion that goes into cryptocurrency. So let's get into this article, and then we'll talk about your role with cryptocurrencies. But to throw another kind of log on the fire, okay, I'll say it. Bitcoin is a scam. That was a quote from the former CEO of PayPal and Intuit. Yeah, so just talk about this article and just the general, not lack of expertise, but lack of a coherent message when it comes to cryptocurrency. Is this, maybe I'm just, unexperienced with commodity trading and things like that. Is this just how markets work, or what's up with cryptocurrencies?
Well, I think there's a little bit of a difference here. And again, this is from my opinion on it. So I don't want to ever say it's fact, because everybody's entitled to their own opinion. However, when you look at something fundamental such as Bitcoin, when you don't have something tangible behind it, it's really driven by not just the supply and demand, but in this case, it's really speculative greed. And that's the part that to me is so concerning, because there's so many stories out there. And I think another segment we were going to do that didn't happen was all of the advertising that's been pulled from Google and from Facebook, that were all of these pump up cryptocurrency to get these traders to jump in to short it and buy and dump a ton of money into it, and then everybody jumps out and bails, kind of a pump and dump type of scheme. And that's what you're hearing is happening again and again, tied closely to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's got the popularity and it's seen that rocket curve. And as you say, you like to watch the roller coaster, a little bit of Bitcoin. I do the same thing too. Every once in a while I'll check in. Again, I don't own Bitcoin, but it's fun to watch that roller coaster. It's kind of, who can't stop to look at a train wreck or a car accident? You tend to just have to glance over. That's kind of the Bitcoin phenomenon. Everybody is curious, and you hear these horror stories of how many billions are won or lost, and I think it kind of makes it a little bit more exciting. The difference is Bitcoin and the underlying technology is the part that I find that's fascinating. And again, just as full disclosure, I'm working as an advisor for BlockSafe Technology, and what they're doing is really securing the blockchain. And that's the important part. Blockchain, is it secure? Yes, it is, but it's even more secure when there's multi-factor authentication, which we've talked about, and other things that are implemented there. And they're using some interesting patented technology that helps keep the blockchain secure for future cryptocurrencies. And that's what's important. It doesn't just draw a line in the sand and say, hey, it's kind of an insecure currency going forward, and all these new alternate coins that are popping up and ICOs are never going to be secure. No, I think there's thousands of them that are popping up. A few hundred are going to survive, and they're really going to be what you, I, and listeners are going to be using in the future. Maybe we'll be using future cryptocurrency faster than we're going to be implanting ourselves with a near-field communication implant, in my opinion, because it's got that type of impact in everything that we do. That's what's exciting ahead.
Right. Yeah. And, the idea of the blockchain, we have seen, because they did, I think, a really cool thing by, of course, making it open source. Anyone can download it, make changes as they see fit. They really opened up a, kind of a good can of worms where, large companies, even such as Amazon or the like, are offering their own take on the blockchain, or they're using the blockchain as a different, just a different method of verifying systems in the background. And by the way, everyone out there, whenever we say blockchain, just a quick, little definition, we always kind of compare it to a ledger, a digital ledger, or, kind of like a long receipt with every transaction, and you can go back and verify this transaction went here, here, and here. It's a very cool technology and very, very secure because, especially when it's decentralized, it's easy to change the receipt on your computer, but to change the receipt on a couple million computers, that's impossible. So that's why it's seen as a secure and really interesting, kind of way to do this. But it does lead to some pretty funny situations. There was a story yesterday, I'm trying to recall exactly what it was, but it was about cryptocurrency being stolen. Oh, I remember. hackers were stealing Ethereum by essentially they compromised a server that Ethereum uses to validate, through HTTPS, SSL, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, they were able to compromise one of the servers and were able to reroute the domain name server to a server in Russia. And they were able, and anyone who said, all right, don't worry that this website is not verified, they had their Ethereum wallets actually emptied. So, we see things like this, and I think that's another part of the whole cryptocurrency thing is that people are excited about cryptocurrency. When they saw that Bitcoin was $20,000, people were asking their investors, should I be looking into this? People have made millions of dollars. Why am I not making millions of dollars? But don't you feel, Scott, that at some level, even power users, even people who have made millions of dollars, don't you feel like at some level they really don't understand how this all works and they just know enough to use it?
Absolutely, and I have friends and colleagues that are active traders of cryptocurrency, and as I just talked with them in a light sense, how do they keep their private keys secure, and what ICO, and what are they using, and which coins are they trading? Security never came into the conversation. And the one question one person said to me is, they said, well, it's all digital, right? It's secure. And I looked at them as, are you serious? No, nothing is 100% secure. You got to take active steps. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, I guess. It's the ecosystem that I often talk about with the blockchain and digital wallets and the exchanges. That's where you got to watch out for the traditional things, key loggers. You got to watch out for DDoS attacks. You got to watch in for any time somebody's trying to compromise your login credentials, somebody's trying to steal your private key. If any of those things gets compromised, somebody's going to get in there and take your coins. And then what's the problem? As we talked about in the past, there's nothing behind these cryptocurrencies. There's no assets behind it. There's no insurance behind it. And it's anonymous for the most part. So when it's gone, it's gone. You're out of the money, period.
That's some of the funniest things about, these stories. And it's very unfortunate when people lose money. Not going to put it past them. But it's also kind of funny because the way that I know that a couple of these currencies work, including Ethereum and Bitcoin, is that you can actually see inside of wallets. If you have the public key, you can monitor wallets as long as you want. So think of it like having everyone's bank account open to see. And you can see that someone emptied your bank account into this bank account. So you can see the money. You can see what used to be your money sitting there in the open. That's all you can do. You can't call anyone to get it back. You can't send a ticket to someone to reverse the transaction. It's done, it's gone, and you just get to look at your money as it gets transferred away to wallet after wallet after wallet. And yeah, that's the end of it. That's kind of the funny and sad part, is that you can see the money go away once it's stolen, but you can't do anything about it. And that's a rough part.
Yeah, so, that is a concerning one, that's for sure.
It is. So I think with that being said, and hey, music actually came in a pretty good time. So we're going to go ahead and just say right there that, hey, that's our show. And thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. Scott, I'll go ahead and give you the last word. Hey, what do you have going on over at your website?
Check out the website. Mm-hmm. ScottSchober.com, and watch the episode, What Keeps You Up at Night.
All right, there you go, everyone. You have your homework, and definitely recommend it. And in the meantime, Scott, once again, thank you so much, and looking forward to having you back on next month. So again, thank you.
Take care.
All right, take care. All right, and everyone else out there, thank you for joining us here at Computer America. That is our show. And hey, all the chatters in the chat room, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. It's been a lot of fun and great to see some old friends in there as well. And hey, be sure to tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. And everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much, and stay safe. Oh, and hey, why not? May your hard drive never become floppy. Computer America, everyone signing off. Bye-bye.